Well, if you haven't caught on yet, we said this a couple of episodes ago, well, maybe more than a couple episodes ago, but we were going to start throwing more and more of the cheesy, over-the-top, what we like to refer to as beer and popcorn movies into the mix, and this episode is no different. This episode, we are jumping back to the early 80s again, which the early 80s just seems to be chock full of beer and popcorn movies. But we're talking about 1983's Sleepaway Camp.
Can I reveal something here that's going to be maybe a surprise to some people?
Sure.
This viewing, which I actually just completed today, was my first time seeing this film.
What?
Yep. Now, I did see 2 of the death scenes previously, and I did know the ending, and I did see the ending. Must have been some like compilation YouTube video or something, but in terms of seeing the whole film, this was it.
Wow.
Yeah, and this is one of those films like we talk about all the time, where you walked into the mom and pop video store and Sleepaway Camp, and its sequels were like always there.
To go back to childhood days. So again, this is a movie that the two of us did not share interest in at all when we were young. And I've talked about this before on this show before, but when me and my family moved from the town that we lived in together, me and you, and then we moved away from there when I was in 7th grade, I guess it was. And then we lived out in the country. And we would frequent a couple of these mom and pop places that rented tapes. And then occasionally we would go into town and we would go to like Blockbuster. Not very often, because going into town was opposite of the way that everybody else went for everyday activities, work, school, and stuff. So if you went into Blockbuster, which was like a 15-20 minute drive, which, I mean, it's not horrible, but they had to take those tapes back in 3 days, and it was always a pain in the ass. But anyway, the couple of different mom and pop shops that we would go to, they never really had the original Sleepaway Camp tape for whatever reason, but they always had the box for Sleepaway Camp 2, which has Angela on the cover, and then she's got this backpack thing on, or this like sack over her shoulder, and it's got a hockey mask and a Nightmare on Elm Street glove hanging out of it.
You know, the funny thing too about that hockey mask and that glove, those, I owned both of those. Those were the ones they sold, well, for you and I at the Jewel Osco back when we were like in 5th and 6th grade.
Perfect. Yeah, they were complete. I mean, you can even tell by looking at that. Even then, you're like, oh, that's a knockoff. I always remember seeing that box and be like, oh, cool. But it was, it said Sleepaway Camp 2. And so I was at that point in my life to where I hadn't seen the original. So I was like, oh, well, I don't want to see the sequel yet, because I'm probably not going to know what's going on. And then flash forward a couple of years, and then was at some video store somewhere, and they had the original. And then I was like, oh, cool, Sleepaway Camp. Yeah, because I've wanted to see Sleepaway Camp 2 for years, because Jason and Freddy are both in it. And finally watched it, and then, back in those days, I didn't really know anything about it. I mean, it was before the internet and stuff, and I'd missed the boat on the whole, Fangoria and all these magazines and stuff covering Sleepaway Camp. I mean, 10 years later or whatever. Watched it, and then get through the whole thing, like, this isn't all that exciting. And then you get to the end, and you're like, what?
Yeah, the ending. Oh my gosh. Should we start there? Should we start at the end and go backwards?
No, I think we should start at the beginning, because actually, and you might not have picked up on this if you've only seen it one time, because it took me a couple of viewings to actually pick up on the actual beginning of the movie too. So again, this is a movie that came out in 1983. So you are talking 25 years ago. So this movie, 35 years ago. Damn.
That is crazy.
Holy crap, now I feel old. So, but you're talking a movie so it's 35 years old. Now, the opening of the movie is this scene where you have a dad, a son, and a daughter, or at least you're presuming they're a son and a daughter, which they are, out on this like sailboat thing, and then they end up in the water, and they're kind of like playing around or whatever. Then there's a ski boat like cruising around, and an accident ends up happening. And again, I don't know if you picked up on this or not, but it's revealed later that the dad who was on the boat with the kids, and then there's another man on the shore that is kind of hollering back and forth, between the people on the boat and in the shore and stuff. Well, it's revealed later that the man on the shore is the dad's boyfriend. There's a scene later in the movie where the dad and the man are in bed kissing, and the kids are laughing at them.
Well, they're not really kissing. They're just kind of sitting there looking at each other and
kind of like playing around or whatever, like oogling over each other.
I did get that. I mean, they show the scene where they're together in the bed, but what did that have to do with anything else? Because I don't know. Maybe
it didn't. The whole thing doesn't have anything to do with anything else. That's one of the weird things with the movie, and we'll get to that in a little bit, but so you have that opening scene, then you jump forward, whatever it is, 10 years or whatever, and then you have this real crazy, like over the top, like ant character that's just kooky. I think is the best way to describe her. She's sending her son and Angela off to camp, and so you're led to believe that, okay, so that must be, and it's not even really explained, really, because I remember like the first time I watched it, I just assumed that the boy, what was his name, Ricky, and Angela, I just assumed like the first couple of times I saw this movie that those, or not the first couple of times, the first time I saw the movie, that was the boy and the girl from the boating accident.
Oh, okay. You see, because I knew the ending. I knew that wasn't that. I knew one of them died. They kind of did a bad job of like putting that whole intro together, though. To be honest with you, with this film, it just seemed like kind of clumsy. Yeah. Like yeah. So you have these two, a boy and a girl, brother and sister, and one of them dies. And it doesn't. I mean, I get where they're going with the whole thing, and I guess I knew that already because I knew the big ending. Like, had I not known that, I would have been, like, really kind of confused, I think, throughout the whole time. Like, oh, why are they, this is really, why would they get the cousin to resemble her to some degree where you would think, like, oh, it's like the boy and his sister.
Yeah.
That was kind of strange.
It is. Then it actually moves into kind of the meat and potatoes of the story. So you have these two kids who are, and they don't really give their ages, and this is kind of a thing that I always think every time I watch this movie is somewhat unique to it. And I'm not going to say it's the only movie that's ever done this, but the majority of the main characters in this story are unlike a lot of the other movies that you see, mainly like Friday the 13th, The Burning, where the main characters are the counselors at the summer camp. The main characters in the story are the kids at the summer camp. And then it actually kind of plays into some of the other things that are a little bit different with this movie than some of the other movies of the time as well. But anyway, you kids go off to this camp. I got to tell you, man, if I had ever went to a camp like that, or if I ever sent my kids to a camp like that, I think I would be horrified forever. I mean,
yeah, it was like
pedophile city, man. It's just crazy.
I was gonna say that exact same term. It is so funny you said that. Yeah, like the cook, and then like the old guy.
Right.
Like, what the hell? Like, I mean, and I think too, like it's also a time thing because like you would never like make a movie now and have characters like that. You just wouldn't. I mean, at least not so in your face. Like that whole scene where like the cook and the old guy are talking when the bus is coming in or whatever, and he's like, "Oh yeah, look at all those, this juicy meat coming in," and like he's like, "Yeah, I know what you're thinking, but I think they're a little too young to know what you're thinking." And I was like, "What the hell are we watching here?"
Yeah, it's horrible.
I know, it's just like unbelievable.
But then you have the opposite of that too, where you have that one cook and then the guy who, like, I don't know, owns it or runs it or whatever, the old guy who always reminds me of Mr. Roper from Three's Company.
Oh, what's his name? Don Knotts.
Yeah.
Didn't we do a Don Knotts episode?
I don't think we did, but we
were going to, like the Mr. Fish or something like that.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Mr. Ghost. Some crazy.
Mr. Ghost and Mr. Chicken or something.
Yes.
But
anyhow,
so you had like these creepy, like pedophile type old guys in the thing, but then you have the kids who are like, it was kind of weird because you're like, okay, so these kids are like 12, I guess, but then they're all like talking about getting laid and, oh, look at, she's got big old tits, look at that, it's perfect. And I'm like, what? It's just so like, it's almost like. It's one of these things where when you're watching it now, like if you're watching it with, and I did watch this with my family not too long ago.
Did you really?
Yeah, I mean, like probably last year, just because I wanted them to see
funny.
the thing. And the whole end scene got them too. They're like, wait, what? But when you're watching, it's because I have a wife and 2 daughters, so you're watching some of this stuff and you're just kind of like, yeah, I'm watching 13-year-olds talk about how perfect that one girl looks and stuff. Yep, that's creepy.
I want to find out who that old guy was because he looked familiar. I know he was in something else.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he probably was.
He had to have been in something. What was that character's name?
Was that Mel?
Yeah, I think it might have been. Yes, you're right. It was Mel. Born 1922. He died in 1983. So when did this film come out?
Came out in 83, yep.
Oh, okay. Let's see here then. Maybe I don't know. He looked like somebody that you saw like a lot on TV shows or something, you know what I mean?
Could have been.
Well, he was in All in the Family. Barney Miller. Those are 2 shows I used to watch when I was really, really little. Kojak. Yeah, he was in a bunch of stuff that Gunsmoke. I never watched. Oh, Lost in Space. He was in that. Maybe I saw him on that. Yeah, because I don't know. His face looked he just had that like I've been in a bunch of I've been in a bunch of things type look. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, he's one of those guys where you see him and you're like, that guy looks familiar. But like I said, he kind of reminded me of that. Like you said, like Don Knotts, like that Mr. Roper kind of feel. Like he could have been from, Three's Company or, some of those spin-offs of that show or something, just kind of look like that kind of.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he had that look. And Sleepaway was his last film, believe it or not.
That makes sense if he died in 83 and Sleepaway Camp came out in 83.
Yeah, I guess so. This is the thing, and this goes back to our whole, this film, and I know you agree with me. This is a definite, absolute beer and popcorn film, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, and the acting is just terrible. You can tell everybody is like, they were picked up from high schools and stuff to star in this movie. And, they were probably cousins and brothers and stuff, the people who were filming. And, it's very, very low quality acting. It's kind of funny because, and even the directing's bad. But the quality of whatever the film stock they used is better than some of the other beer and popcorn movies. Like going back to Basket Case, it looked like we were watching it through on a sandy windstorm or something because it was like so grainy. Whereas this one, it was the quality was better. I guess it's just a beer and popcorn movie with a better film lens, I guess.
We didn't have any interest in this one at all when we were kids, and then it was one of those ones that for whatever reason it took me a long time to get to it. I don't remember exactly when the first time I saw it was, but This is one of those ones, like I said to you the other day when I was watching it again. This, for whatever reason, is one of my favorites of, well, probably of all time, really. I don't know why, but it's just one of these ones. I mean, and it's weird, like you said. We've said this a couple of times in the past couple of these types of movies that we've talked about. Not a good story. The writing is bad. The acting is bad. The story doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Like, it's just kind of thrown together. It's great for whatever reason. The whole thing, it's just effective, and it's one of those things where you just watch it, and you know now, after you see it a couple of times, and you know what's coming up, and you know what's going to happen, and so you catch yourself kind of like cheering things on, like, oh, here comes that scene where they're going to drop the bee nest into the bathroom. Oh, it's going to be great.
This movie, there was two things that really surprised me about this film. Number one, there was very, very little gore, which really surprised me. Because when I was thinking Sleepaway Camp, I'm thinking like, okay, this is going to be a second-rate Friday the 13th, and Friday the 13th already is a second-rate Halloween. So they're not going to have any budget. They're not going to have anybody who knows how to act, and they're going to have people who, work at gas stations, like running the cameras. And I'm like thinking, so it's going to be, terrible quality film, but what they're going to do because of that is they're going to go 100%, over the top with the gore. And this film, there's really none of that, and that like really kind of surprised me. I mean, you've got like the death scenes, and like the first one is other than the boating accident, you've got the cook, when he gets burned, and I don't know if I would call it. I mean, it was like makeup effects and all that, but it wasn't really gory and it wasn't really over the top. And then you've got the bee thing, and that was sort of like you see the after effects of just like the body with the bees all over it. So it was kind of like that. And then the girl in the shower getting her back slashed, which wasn't really much of it wasn't definitely not like crazy amount of gore there. And I guess the end with the decapitated head was probably the goriest scene. But like, I guess like to me, I was thinking, okay, this is going to be like buckets of blood, and I mean, Deadly Spawn type blood, just because they have to. So that was my first thing that I was actually surprised that it's actually pretty tame compared to what I thought it would be. And the other thing that I was extremely surprised by was, other than the final scene of the film, there is like zero nudity. Like, I mean, this is a camp movie, for crying out loud. Friday the 13th on steroids, without any budget, and yet there's nothing. No, not one little shot, nothing like that at all in this film.
Not at all, which is kind of odd too, because
isn't that crazy?
It is, and especially like going back to what I was saying a minute ago, when the kids first get to the camp, presumably this is a camp that the kids are from all different areas, of course, because there's a couple of people who are like running up to other people like, "Hey, good to see you again this year," and then a couple of references like, "Oh yeah, I haven't seen them since last year." But the one kid comes up to the other kid and he's like, "Oh, wait till you see Judy. She's got big tits this year." And so you're kind of thinking like, oh, okay, so yep, here we go. We're going to be seeing Judy naked in a little bit.
And we never do.
We never did. Nope. Never saw anybody naked. Not only did you not see anybody naked, but there's really like none of the typical kind of slasher stuff. Again, like, well, what would really be, I guess, more the Friday the 13th rules than anything. Halloween a little bit, but there's really no sex. There's no drinking. There's no drugs.
Nope.
There's none of that stuff. I mean, there's towards the end of the movie, there was gonna be some skinny dipping, but
yeah, that was like a big shocker, because typically a beer and popcorn movie is gonna go over the top with that kind of stuff. It's going to be like, exploitation all the way. But yeah, we did not get any of that. So that really surprised me, because, at some points it was like almost like an R-rated version of Ernest Goes to Camp. It just shocked me because, again, like It did, you think, and even like looking at the cover art, and I mean that cover art, that's pretty iconic. I remember seeing it all the time at the video store, the knife, coming out of the sneaker, and that was just sort of like that whole like, when you're walking through the horror section, and you see that, it's like, you're thinking, oh yeah, this is probably going to be a really gory, boob fest film, and then to bring this. To watch this after all these years all the way through and see that it wasn't was kind of a surprise to me. But I do want to say real quick too, Felissa Rose, who is the star who plays Angela, she was 13 at the time, and you and I had ran into her last year at Flashback.
Yep. And
she looks great for her age. She must be in her 50s probably now.
But she's actually not, probably pretty close. She's she's not that much older than us. I think she's only 8 years older than us, 9 years older than us.
Oh, okay. One thing which surprised me as I'm going through her IMDb page is that apparently she only was in the first film, huh?
Yep, right.
I did not know that. I thought because of her popularity, at least it seemed like she's got somewhat of a cult following because of this film. I thought she would have been in the next two, but again, looking at what you had said, the cover of the second one movie and the girl with the bag and the Jason and the Freddy glove sticking out of the bag, that wasn't her. It was the same character, but it wasn't the same actress.
She's great, and she's unlike some of the other actresses of the day, final girls of the day, if you will. She's still out there working.
Yeah, she's been busy. Yeah, she looks like she was pretty slow, and after this she didn't really do much, and then in the 90s she only did 1 or 2 films, but then once she hit the 2000s hit, she has been rocking and rolling. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I think that goes back to what we've said before, to where a lot of these people, once the convention scene really kind of took off and some of these folks realized that, hey, people do want me because I played Angela in Sleepaway Camp back in 1983, and then so then you get some of these other folks that these independent movies and stuff, hey, why don't you come and be in this? And I'm sure I would be not surprised at all if you watched not all of her movies, but some of her movies, if that iconic mouth wide open, not screaming kind of face she was making towards the end of the movie didn't appear in at least some of them, just so you're watching that, you're like, oh, there's the face from Sleepaway Camp,
right?
But I think that probably the thing we should give away, so probably should say spoiler before we jump in this next little bit here. So if you haven't seen the movie and you don't know what we're talking about, even though we've said it, kind of hinted towards it a couple of times, and you don't want the end of the movie wrecked, you might want to go ahead and hit the pause button until you get done watching it. The end of this movie, like I said before, when I first saw it, was shocking, to me anyway, because I had no idea that it was coming. And this was, I didn't look it up beforehand, but I wonder how many years before The Crying Game this movie was. It had to have been at least 10 years before The Crying Game. And again, it kind of just it goes into kind of a line with the rest of the movie to where a lot of this doesn't really make sense. So you have all these kills that are happening at the camp. You're kind of sort of led to believe that it's Ricky, the cousin, who's doing all of this, and Mel, the guy who's running the camp, he thinks it's Ricky, and I think there's a couple other people probably assuming that it's Ricky as well. But to go back to what you were talking about before, so when everybody gets to the camp, the cook, he doesn't actually die. He's just burnt really bad, and then he's taken away. Well, then at the end of the movie, presumably the cook must have come to a little bit and told the police that, hey, it was the girl who did it, not the boy. They get this call at the camp that oh, hey, there's a killer on the loose. And then you have Angela, who's played by Felissa Rose, and her and this boy are, going to go skinny dipping and going to hit it off down by the lake or whatever it is. And everybody comes down and to find her, and here's Angela naked, and she's what looks like she's like humming to this naked boy whose head is like resting in her lap, and then they come around to the front side of her and she stands up and she's got covered in blood and the severed head rolls off to the side. They pan down and Angela's got a wiener.
And Angela has also done some weightlifting from the last time we've seen her. Which is, yeah, that's the only part. That's one of those things, too, where it's clearly, you know, not her body. Which kind of throws you off because you're like, okay, was that done? I mean, they had to have intentionally known that they're matching up a male body to this girl who, throughout the film, is, you know, clearly like really small and petite, skinny arms, small shoulders, and then all of a sudden at the end she's this male, hairy, massive kind of character, and it's like, as a, you know, for what it was like, okay, but like at the same time it just seemed like it loses a little bit of the sting because it's too unbelievable, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you're saying, yeah.
So I mean, like, if it would have been like, if they got like a you know, a skinny kid or 18 and up guy to like play that role, but they get like a kind of a bulky, muscular body to do that with, and it was just kind of like, what? You know, I mean, we saw her, you know, she got thrown in the lake, and so when they pull her out of the lake, you know, you would have seen like her clothes press against her body, and you'd see muscles and shoulder and all that. And I don't know. To me, it's like that was a little bit far fetched. You're gonna tell me that's her body? I mean, is she like the Hulk now? So I don't know. That kind of threw me off a bit.
She gets angry and the penis pops out.
Yeah, that's what it was. So we gave away the ending, but I don't know for you. I don't know what your thoughts are. Well, I think I do know what your thoughts are, but I'm going to go ahead and give this one a... Can you guess where I'm going with this?
I'm going to say thumbs up.
You are absolutely correct. Woo-hoo. I'm going to have to give it a thumbs up because this is this falls into the beer and popcorn category film. Where we're not watching this film for the acting, for the story, for the effects, or for any of that, for that matter. We're watching it because it's a fun horror movie, and you have to watch it and enjoy it. And again, what were the other two? Like, toss this in with Basket Case and The Deadly Spawn, and you've got a trilogy you can't beat. Just make sure you have enough beer for all those. That
is 100% correct. And I'm going to go the same route. I give this one 2 giant thumbs up. This, like I said, this is one of those movies, man, and it falls into the realm with all the other ones. Other than it being just cheesy, good, fun, you know, this isn't one of those movies that you're watching because, you know, it's of the great cinematography or kills or, you know, like, oh, you know, the Savini's effects are outstanding in this movie. It's none of that. It's just one of those things where you're watching it to have a good time.
Absolutely.
You know, you want to forget about life for whatever 82 minutes or whatever it is, and kind of chuckle at some of the stuff. Like you said, you know, you have these scenes where the effects aren't really that great. You know, they kind of give you an idea of what's going on, but you're just like, oh no, come on, that's not. You're like the bees, for example. You know, the one guy gets killed by bees,
right?
And he falls out of the stall and he, like, pans down his arm, and his arm is all like bubbly and stuff. But then you have like this face, and he's just got all these bees just like on his face. Like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Whatever, you know. But it just makes you, I don't know what it is. It just makes you feel good, which is kind of weird when you're talking about horror movies. Like, well, you watch horror movies to feel good? Sometimes.
Well, you know, strangely enough, it's like, I don't know, it's kind of like a good example would be like Ernest Goes to Camp. That's one of those movies where you just kind of like, it's definitely not like a masterpiece, but it's like, you know, sometimes you just are in the mood to watch it. It's like, yeah, I'll turn on Ernest. And I think this one kind of falls in line with that. It's like one of those films where, no, is it a great film? Absolutely not. You know, is the acting great? No. Is the writing and the directing? No, absolutely, of course not. You know, it's like a second-rate Friday the 13th, but is it fun to watch? Yeah, it actually is. So yeah, have to give it a thumbs up for sure.